CTN, the Energy Network.
Hello, I'm Patrick Sweeney, Executive Vice President of Caliper. Today I'm going to be speaking with you about coaching for success, how to develop your next top performer. I've been looking so forward to sharing with you some of the ways you can hire and develop people who are driven to succeed. But before I share with you two fundamental keys to coaching for success, I need to tell you that none of this advice will work if one of two people is not ready, you and the person you're trying to coach. And that can account for a very complicated formula. Both of you need to be open, flexible, intrigued by solving problems, self-aware, willing to listen and reflect, and most importantly, both of you need to be convinced that the change you want to create is worth everything it'll take to bring it about. Because change is not easy. Let me be more honest. Change is very hard. We often do everything we can to avoid changing. It means work and leaving our comfort zone. And the real motivation to change has to come from within. Without a fundamental desire, make that a need to change, nothing will change, at least for very long. And the best coaching in the world will fall on deaf ears. As we focus on coaching, it begs the question, does anybody really change? I'm not going to be coy. Let me cut to the chase here. I'll tell you what I really believe. I believe that we can all change in huge ways if we really want to. But I've also come to believe that as managers, it is not our jobs to try to change people. Rather, it is our job to help them realize their potential. Those are two very different things. That same philosophy about identifying and developing potential applies to coaching for employees. First of all, not everyone responds to coaching in the way our organization desires or intends. At Caliper, we've coached executives on how to become better coaches themselves, how to improve the performance of their key employees, and after each session, they all end up saying that they're going to go back to their jobs and apply what they've learned. But a year later, when we go back and ask their direct reports to confirm that these leaders had been applying the lessons, over 1/3 of them say that their bosses were doing absolutely nothing differently. Now, why did over 1/3 of these executives go through the coaching, promise to implement the changes, but do nothing about it? Most of them just get sucked into their busy lives and get distracted by the day-to-day demands of their jobs and forget to implement what they've learned. And let's face it, we're all creatures of habit. So we all go back to our old habits, the good and the bad. To change, we have to want to. Let me just emphasize, change is not easy. It's very uncomfortable. Most of us don't change unless our backs are up against the wall. Often we only change after we've been hurting so much in some way. And we have to realize that we're going to have to hurt some more because changing can be very painful. Most coaching is based on a huge and false assumption that if people understand, they will do the right thing. But why do so many people who have had a triple bypass operation a year later resume their old eating habits? If we're not going to change when something is life-threatening, then why are we going to change one of our habits at work just because our boss wants us to? In order for coaching to stick, it requires desire, understanding, commitment, support, being open to feedback, and constant follow-up. That's a pretty tall order. And not everyone can handle it or even wants to. This brings us to the first of our two fundamental keys to coaching for success, surrounding yourself with the right people. The second, which I'll get to shortly, is establishing a real connection between them and you. When we asked over 500 company presidents, what is the best part and what's the worst part of being a leader, surrounding yourself with the right people was at the top of both categories. Surrounding yourself with the right people. It's the best part and the worst part of being a leader. Now, at first that might sound contradictory, but what they're telling us is that it's an either-or. When it doesn't work, it's the worst part of being a leader. It keeps us up at nights worrying. It makes us fill in for others and forces us to make some very tough decisions about letting people go or spending a lot of time trying to develop people who aren't really cut out for their jobs. And worst of all, it keeps you from doing what you're best at, surrounding yourself with the right people. When it works, it's the best thing. It frees you up to do the things you've always wanted to do, to plan for the future, to set a new course, to feel a real sense of confidence in the people you surround yourself with, and to play to their strengths as well as your own. It starts or stops with who we surround ourselves with. But why is it so hard to surround yourself with the right people? Let me give you a hint. In another survey, we asked over 500 managers, who do you spend most of your time with? Your top performers, your average performers, or your poor performers? Do you know what they answered? Any ideas? Nearly 2/3 of the managers we asked said they were spending most of their time with poor performers. Sounds like most people here can relate to that. At Caliper, we've discovered that 55% of the people currently working would be doing themselves, their company, and certainly those of us who are unfortunate enough to come in contact with them, a favor if they just gracefully bowed out and pursued an entirely different profession. For more than half the people currently working, their favorite feeling is when the whistle blows at the end of the day. They dread coming in at 9 o'clock and they can't wait to go home at 5. You know the type I'm talking about. If you're lucky, they'll leave on their own. One of our clients told us how relieved he was when an underachieving employee told him he was going to the restroom and just never returned. That manager lucked out. But the unfortunate truth is that most poor performers do return. Given the three choices, the top, average, and poor performers, I would strongly advise spending most of your time with your top performers. Essentially, as managers, we have to ask ourselves, if I'm spending most of my time with poor performers who aren't really interested in changing, what's the best I can hope for? To bring my worst employees up to being barely average at best? One of our clients, John Beatty, the Senior Vice President of Human Resources for GMAC Insurance, told an incredibly revealing story about recognizing and developing top performers. He said that one day he got a call from one of his best performers who told him she was leaving. He was stunned and asked her why. She said, "John, I'm out here alone. All day, I can't get any of your time. This just doesn't work for me anymore." There was about a half hour between her phone call and the time she got to his office. During that time, John said he did a whole lot of soul searching. When she arrived, he was obviously shook up. He said to her that he understood what she was saying. Then he sincerely apologized and asked if she would stick in for another month and give him a chance to change the situation. Unfortunately, she did. He said that was his wake-up call, and now he spends much more time with his top performers and much less time with his poor performers. Take John's advice. Spend less time with your poor performers and more time with your best employees and those who are striving to get there, the ones who show a willingness to grow. That's where your coaching will stick. Now, in a landmark study published in the Harvard Business Review in 1964, Herb Greenberg, the founder and chief executive officer of Caliper, identified the qualities that distinguish top performers. Ultimately, Herb found that when our inherent strengths are matched to what we're doing, then our potential can be realized. But why is it so hard to surround yourself with the right people in the first place? Why is it so hard to hire top performers? For starters, we can get a master's degree in business administration without really learning two of the most important things in business, which are how to hire the right people and how to avoid hiring the wrong ones. And if you don't hire the right people, all the coaching in the world will get you nowhere. So let's just take a minute to focus on hiring. Effective hiring involves more than just narrowing down a pile of resumes, bringing in some likely candidates, and knowing how to ask just the right questions to get people to really open up. In order to hire effectively, you have to start out by knowing what qualities your current top performers have in common, because they are your model. Do you know the qualities that distinguish your best employees from the rest? Because the best are who you need more of, and the rest are who you could do without, or at least with fewer. So what do your best employees have that the others lack? What are they really made of? What qualities do they possess? What drives them to succeed? Step back and think long and hard about your top performers. Do you let them know how important they are to you? What makes them so unique? Is it their optimism, their resilience, their empathy, their persuasiveness, or their perseverance? The capacity to quickly analyze problems and arrive at solutions? An ability to connect with people in a real way? What do your top performers have that the others lack? Discover that. Then look for applicants who have those same qualities. That's the potential you're looking for. How do you recognize if someone has those qualities? You have to delve below the surface and consider an applicant or employee's real potential. An in-depth personality profile can give you some insights into whether an applicant has the potential, the qualities you're looking for. The next thing you have to do is to hone your interviewing skills. Can I give you a tip about hiring? First, you have to know what you're looking for. Interviewing is a very inexact science. It's probably really more of an art form, because in most cases, part of the difficulty of the hiring process is that the interviews often turn into a ritualistic dance in which applicants and employers are tripping over each other, putting their best feet forward. The one thing that successful interviews can tell us is who to avoid. Beyond that, the best insight an interview can provide is to give you a glimpse as to whether or not you connect with someone, at least initially. As I mentioned earlier, the second key to successfully coaching and developing top performers is establishing a real connection between you and the person you're trying to coach. But you need to proceed with caution at the interview stage. How can you develop individuals who have the potential to become your top performers? There are things that can be done to turn around certain situations that are not working out. Insightful coaching can help bring out the best in some people. Changing managers may be the answer for others. But the truth of the matter is that if someone is not built for the job, if they don't have the empathy and desire to persuade which is needed for sales, or the ability to identify talent and organize projects that is needed for management, then they are trying to defy gravity. They're climbing a very steep hill with a very slim chance of succeeding. And that's the lesson. You have to start in the right place, or you'll end in the wrong place. Do I have any advice to you as a coach? Start out by truly understanding the strengths of the individual you're coaching. Coaching is a one-to-one activity. It starts with you and the individual you're working with. How do you connect most strongly? Is that connection through your desire to succeed, your optimism, your empathy? Whatever that connection, that's your starting place. Let the individual know that you are aware of his or her strengths, even if they themselves may be too modest to say them out loud. Then with their strengths as your foundation, you can both work at one behavior you would like to change. Remember, always start with your connection and with the person you're connecting with. That's how coaching succeeds. Then build upon the individual's many strengths. Say them out loud. Let them know that you know what matters and what makes them real. Then talk about the one behavior you'd like to see change. Open yourself to uncovering and coaching the potential of individuals. We have found that the real winners in this world are those individuals who know who they are and they know how to play to their strengths. And they are willing to take a risk on someone else's potential. Find that in yourself. Look for it in others, and you will be well on your way to surrounding yourself with top performers. I've enjoyed sharing this with you today. I am Patrick Sweeney, the Executive Vice President of Caliper. This is CTN. Thank you for watching.